You've seen the headlines, right? The AI boom is everywhere. But what if I told you the whole thing is built on more than just amazing tech? What if it's also built on a massive, kind of dizzying circular flow of money? It's like a financial magic trick where billions of dollars just seem to appear while huge debts get cleverly tucked away out of sight. So let's follow the money.
Ponzi scheme, bubble. I mean, those are some seriously strong words, but they're being thrown around because when you start to really trace the money trail in AI, things get, well, they get complicated. So the big question we're going to tackle is this. Are we witnessing a real technological revolution, or is this whole thing just a spectacular house of cards waiting for a breeze?
And look, to really get why the stakes are so high, you got to think back to 2008. The whole global economy was nearly brought to its knees by these super complex financial products built on a really simple asset, home mortgages. Well, the argument now is that we're seeing that exact same pattern play out again, just with a different asset at its core. This time, it's not houses, it's computer chips, specifically GPUs. Okay, so let's pull back the curtain on what some are calling the AI money go-round. When you look at the biggest deals happening in AI, you start to see this really curious pattern. It's the same handful of companies investing in each other, and then turning around and buying each other's products. And everyone is reporting this incredible growth. So how does that work? Where is all this money actually coming from?
I mean, the numbers are they're staggering. We are talking about deals and company valuations in the hundreds of billions of dollars. But it's not just how big these numbers are that's interesting, it's how they're all connected.
And it doesn't stop there. You see these other massive deals for hundreds of billions. What's happening is that the money from an investment in Company A often flows right back out to buy something from Company B, which might even be the original investor. It creates these massive, tangled financial loops.
Okay, this slide just lays it out perfectly. Look at this. A company like Nvidia invests in an AI startup. That startup then takes that exact same money and uses it to buy chips from who? From Nvidia. Think about it like this. I own a chocolate shop, I give you $10, but on the condition that you come into my shop and buy $10 worth of chocolate. My books show a $10 sale, but did my shop actually make any new money? No. And this pattern is repeating over and over and over again.
So, you might be wondering, how is this money go-round even possible? How can a startup afford the billions and billions of dollars in computer hardware it needs for AI without completely drowning in debt? Well, it turns out, there's a neat little financial magic trick that can make all that debt just, poof, disappear from the books.
And the amount of this hidden debt is just wild. Right now, estimates put the debt for AI infrastructure alone at around $24 billion. And get this, as you can see, almost half of it is hidden. That means it doesn't show up on the official balance sheets of the AI companies using all that hardware. So, where is it?
The secret weapon here is something called a special purpose vehicle, or SPV. The easiest way to think about it is as a separate legal shell company. A parent company, like an AI startup, creates an SPV for one specific reason, to hold on to a risky asset or a giant pile of debt and keep it totally separate from the main company's books. Let's look at a real-world example, because this makes it so much clearer. Elon Musk's company, xAI, needs a $20 billion supercomputer. But instead of taking on all that debt itself, it creates an SPV. Now, the SPV is the one that goes out and raises the $20 billion, which includes $12.5 billion in debt. Then, that SPV buys all the chips from Nvidia. And for the final step, xAI just rents the computing power from the SPV that it created in the first place. So what's the result? xAI gets its supercomputer, Nvidia gets a huge sale, and that $12.5 billion in debt, it never touches xAI's bucks. It's kind of brilliant, and it's super risky.
Right, so here's the catch. What happens if xAI's big plan doesn't work out? Well, xAI can pretty much walk away. It's the investors who put money into the SPV who are left holding the bag. And what's in that bag? Billions of dollars worth of computer hardware that's losing value by the second. And we already know GPU rental rates have crashed by as much as 75% in some places. Ouch.
Now, this whole setup of packaging up risk and passing it off to someone else, it should be sounding a little familiar. In fact, it's eerily similar to the financial engineering that was at the absolute heart of the 2008 financial crisis. But this time, instead of being built on shaky home loans, the whole system is built on the belief that the demand for GPUs will never, ever go down.
Let's just map this out to make it super clear. Back in 2008, you had the bank providing the money.
Today, that's the big AI company, like Nvidia, which is often funding these deals. The home buyer from 2008? That's like the GPU customer today, the startup that needs the expensive asset.
And the financial tools are just as similar. Those mortgage bundles from back then, they're a lot like today's SPVs, which are just bundles of risk tied to GPUs. And the infamous synthetic CDOs, those were basically just bets stacked on top of other bets. Today we have layers of debt and investment all making one single gigantic bet, that the demand for GPUs is unstoppable.
So, we've just unpacked the financial loop, but it turns out there's another loop running at the same time, and this one isn't about finance, it's about geography. It's an incredibly clever way to get around international rules, and, you guessed it, Nvidia is right at the center of this one too.
Okay, so here are the rules of the game. The US government set up this three-tiered system for who can buy high-end AI chips. Tier 1 countries like the EU can buy as many as they want. Tier 2 has some limits, and Tier 3 countries like China are pretty much cut off from the best stuff. The whole point is to keep top-tier AI technology out of the hands of rivals.
So, here's the genius workaround. There's a company called Nebius, and it's based in Amsterdam, a Tier 1 city. This means they can legally buy as many of Nvidia's best chips as their heart desires. But here's the clever part. They don't sell the chips. They sell access to the computing power of those chips as a cloud service. And this lets companies in restricted Tier 3 countries legally rent the power of a chip they are banned from ever buying. It's a perfectly legal way to sidestep the export controls.
Let me put it another way. Imagine a government says that you are only allowed to buy a Toyota. So a smart entrepreneur sets up shop in another country, buys a whole fleet of Ferraris, and then simply rents those Ferraris out to you. You're not buying it, you're just renting it. That is exactly the model being used here with these super powerful GPUs.
Okay, this all brings us to the final and honestly the most important question in this whole explainer. We've got these two incredibly clever loops, one financial, one geographic, that are creating what looks like infinite demand for GPUs. But is any of this actually based on real, provable profits from the AI technology itself?
Well, when you start digging into the data, you find a pretty big paradox. For all the trillions of dollars in valuation flying around, the average return on investment for an enterprise AI project is a measly 6%. That is not the world-changing number you might expect.
And it gets worse. A staggering 80% of companies that have poured money into AI say they have seen no significant impact on their bottom line. There is this huge gap between the hype about what AI can do for a business and what it's actually delivering in profits.
And this might be the most telling number of all. An absolutely incredible 95% of generative AI pilot projects never even make it into full production. Think about that. So much money has been spent on a technology that so far has an almost entirely unproven record of making real-world profits.
So when you put all the pieces together, you see this stunningly complex machine. On one side, you have financial engineering that's creating what looks like unstoppable demand. On the other, you've got these geographic workarounds that create artificial scarcity and drive up prices. The whole thing is generating massive returns on paper, but it's all built on a foundation of technology that, for most businesses, has not yet delivered on its big promise of profitability.
And that just leaves us with the ultimate question. When you have a system that's built on artificial demand, propped up by financial wizardry, and all chasing unproven profits, what happens when reality finally decides to catch up? What happens next?